Are you a band in the Baton Rouge or surrounding areas in need of live sound? Look no further than Racket Sound, Lighting, and DJ Services. Racket Sound, Lighting, and DJ Services is big production on a musician's budget. Book Racket Sound, Lighting, and DJ Services today for your next big gig by contacting Louisiana musician Bob Toller at 225-773-4639. That's 225-773-4639.
Ranked as one of iTunes' most popular podcasts, considered to be entertaining, informative, and downright hilarious by their listeners. It's Friday, and you're listening to Russell And Mudtooth on Radio Random Network. Take it away, boys.
Yes, it is Friday, and you are listening to the Russell And Mudtooth Show right here on the Radio Random Network. I am #RDM Russell Devin McLain, and Mudtooth is not with us this week, but he is with us in spirit. He's doing Mudtooth things. It's the best way to put it. But needless to say, old Mudtooth's going to be on here next week, next Friday. Be sure and tune in because we got a great show for you next Friday. You know, as always, we're going to be sharing our opinions and our thoughts on today's country music scene and so much more. But also, we got a very special guest next week, Mr. Mike Fleming of the Steel Drivers. If you're not familiar with the Steel Drivers, go look them up. As a matter of fact, Chris Stapleton, who is the end-all be-all now of the country music scene, he was the lead singer for that band, is the best way to put it. Got a great show for you today as well. I'm going to be talking with the legendary Gene Watson, the real troubadour, real country music. He's got a lot of interesting things to say, talking about his touring and his new music and his influences in music and all that good stuff. You know how we do it here at the Radio Random Network. With all of that said, let's pay a few bills. And when we come back, I'll be joined by Gene Watson. Don't go nowhere.
Older women are beautiful lovers.
Don't miss Ronnie McDowell and Friends Nothing But the Hits Tour, Friday, December 4th at 7 p.m. at the Crystal Theater in Okemah, Oklahoma.
Watching girls go
Ken
by.
Mellons.
I'm just an old jukebox
And
jockey
new
standing
country
by
artist and
town.
Oklahoma native Amber Hayes with 4 top 40 hits, including Come On.
Step up, show me your moves, come on.
Jeff Bates.
Starting with some long, slow kissing.
And a special tribute to the late Johnny Cash by his brother Tommy Cash.
Rain of fire.
Tia Goins and Deborah Allen. Ronnie McDowell and Friends Nothing But the Hits Tour.
Now the king is gone.
To reserve your $15 tickets, visit nothingbutthehits.com. The Nothing But the Hits Tour, Friday, December 4th at 7 p.m. at the Crystal Theater in Okemah, Oklahoma. Nothing but the hits.
All right, joining me today on the Russell and Mudtooth Show, this man's known as the Singer's Singer. I'm talking to the legend, the icon. He's real country, y'all. I'm talking to none other than Mr. Gene Watson. How you doing today, Gene?
I'm doing good. You doing all right?
Doing great, brother. How is the weather where you're at today?
Beautiful day here in Nashville, Tennessee. The sun's out bright and shiny. It's about, I'd say about 60 degrees and just a beautiful day.
That's right. You're at the Grand Ole Opry tonight, so you're in Nashville this week, huh?
Right. That's true.
Well, you know, speaking of the Opry and everything, when did you first get the honor to actually play the Opry stage, Gene?
Boy, it was years back. In fact, it was back in the 60s, thanks to Teddy and Doyle, the Wilburn brothers. They invited me out on the road with them to do a couple of shows, and it just so happened that along with the shows came a visit to the Ryman Auditorium, and on their segment of the show, they invited me out as a guest, and that was my first time to ever play on the Opry.
Yes, indeed. Now, I mean, you were saying in the 60s. Now, you pretty much, I guess, come on, you've been, I mean, I guess, a musician all your life, but you pretty much come on the scene with your 1975 hit, Love in the Hot Afternoon. Can you give us a little insight on when you recorded the song and when it kind of took off for you?
Yeah, I had recorded some earlier recordings on small independent labels that I guess, opened a few doors. And it was on the small independent label that I recorded a song called Bad Water. And it was the first song I ever had that got in the national charts. And the very next release was Love in the Hot Afternoon, originally released on the independent label. Capitol Records heard it, liked it, and signed me to a long-term recording contract. After I'd recorded the song in 1974, it was released, of course, on Capitol. After it had already been released on Independent, they re-released it on Capitol, and the song wound up being, I think, number 4 for the year of 1975, and just really kind of launched Gene Watson's career.
Right. Well, with all of that said, Gene, and we're going to rewind a little bit here. You know, I said you was a musician all your life, but when did you decide? When did the bug really bite you? I mean, was music something that was, I guess, played in your household constantly when you were a child, or was it something that you just kind of fell into?
Well, my whole family were singers. Of course, we all sang in church, and I would honestly say that's where I began singing. And it was nothing out of the ordinary for me, because, like I say, it was a household word. You know, everybody in the family sang.
Right.
As time progressed, I'm the only one that decided to take it up, you know, professionally, and of course started out playing small functions, small nightclubs around Houston, Texas, around Harris County, and it just kind of grew from there. It was there where a couple of guys with the name of Russ Reeder and Roy Stone heard me and asked me would I like to do some recording, and I thought they was kidding me, you know, but I said I'd sure like to go to Nashville, and they agreed to bring me to Nashville, and that's what really got me started.
Wow, that's awesome. And I would imagine now with social media and everything, back then you really, I mean, today, you know, with one click, you're all over the world. Now in that era, though, I mean, you really had to work and pay your dues to actually get a little recognition for what you were doing.
Absolutely. Man, I paid dues until I starved to death, you know.
Oh, yes,
but,
indeed.
You know, I never did take music for granted either. I still worked in paint and body shops during the daytime, and I would work clubs at night, even after I was recording. In fact, I was working day jobs and playing club at night when we got the contract with Capitol Records. And it was only after the release of Love in the Hot Afternoon that I rolled my tools in the garage and decided to give it a fair shot, you know, and see how it worked.
Yes, indeed. Well, coming into the now, I guess you have a brand new album that you released not too long ago. It's My Heroes Have Always Been Country. And by the way, for everybody listening, all you Gene Watson fans out there, you can go to GeneWatsonMusic.com and pick up a copy today. But with that said, tell us a little bit about this new album, because you're doing some songs that's made popular, I guess, by some people that's influenced your career, so to speak.
Yeah, the title pretty much says it all. I thought how fitting it would be for me to go back in time and do some of these songs that I used to do before I had a song of my own, and of course recorded by some of the people that I admired to the fullest. I think, like the title says, My Heroes. And so that's what I did. I went back and got some Haggard, Marty Robbins, you know, Willie Nelson. I got, you know, some of the songs that I used to sing back then, and recorded them, and fittingly we titled the album My Heroes Have Always Been Country.
Yes, indeed. Yes, and with that said, you know, here on the Radio Random Network, especially here on the Russell And Mudtooth Show, we are very high on what some call classic country. We call it the good stuff here. But with all of that said, can you give us, I mean, you don't have to go all out on it, and you don't even have to comment, but can you give us your opinion on today's country music? Do you listen to it?
What country music?
Thank you, sir.
You know, that's a soapbox we don't have time for me to get up on. Yes. I'll leave it this way. You know, I wish for everybody to have success in whatever they might, you know, start out at, and I want everybody to have good luck. I hope they succeed. But you know, don't take us traditionalists our category away. You know, give us a shot.
Yes, indeed. I totally agree with that. And you've done stuff with the Larry's Country Diners of late too, correct?
Yeah, it's great, Mr. Larry Black. We've of course been on Larry's Country Diners several times. And of course, Country's Family Reunion from RFD TV. We've done that numerous times, and we're in talks right now about a new TV show with me and my buddy Mo Bandy.
Yes, indeed.
Called the Gene and Mo Show.
That's right.
So we've had quite a bit on our plate this year, with working the schedule on the road, and I'm also working on a brand new CD that we're almost through with, and it's another one that's kind of self-explanatory, being titled Real Country Music.
I like that.
Says it all, don't it?
Yes, it does. We had Mo on the show not too long ago. I mean, he spoke very highly of you as well. But can you give us a little insight on when you actually had came in contact with Mo Bandy?
Whew, man, that was back before ever having a record deal or anything like that. I was living in the Houston area, and he was living in San Antonio. And he would play on one side of San Antonio, and I'd play on the other side. And we've known each other for so many years. In fact, we both got our break around the same time, I guess. And we've just always been super duper friends and everything. And we're always picking at each other and carrying on. But I'll tell you, I couldn't have a better friend than Mo Bandy.
Yes, indeed. Now, before I let you go, I got a couple of more things I want to ask you, but one, and I'm sure you have to answer this question with everybody, but you've had many hits, 14 Karat Mine, Love in the Hot Afternoon, and you've done, I mean, what is it? It's like 6 number ones. You've charted like 23 top 10s. I mean, you had a great career, but the one song that is most your signature, and you know it's coming, it's Farewell Party.
Right.
Can you give us a little insight on the day that you found out that this song exploded?
No, not really. Not really. Farewell Party wasn't even a number one song.
Really?
I think it maybe got to number 3 or 4. I'm not sure. But that song was, I cannot say it was an afterthought. I'm saying that it was something that I really wanted to do. It all took place in the studio here in Nashville, and we had just about finished up with a recording session, and we had about 20 minutes left on the clock. And I'd been wanting to record this song forever and a day. And finally, I just set my foot down and said, I want to run at this song. We don't have like 20 minutes to throw away anyway. So I picked up a guitar and got down on one knee in the middle of the studio and played it so the musicians could get their chord charts and everything. We got on the microphone and ran it to make sure they were all on the same page. Then we rolled tape, and what you hear on the record was the first scratch track. That's the first time we rolled it. We cut that song in about 15 minutes, and it's by far been the most requested song of my career. Yes,
indeed. I know down here in Louisiana, I mean, when you mention Gene Watson, that's the first thing that comes up is a Farewell Party. So
yeah, it's received so many comments from so many people, and really and truly, as morbid as it might sound, there's no telling how many funerals that song's been played at.
Yes,
but
indeed.
It's really been good for me.
With all of that said, like I said a while ago, you've got 6 number ones. It was 23 top 10s, and I mean you've been on a chart probably over 80 times with singles and everything. But with all of that said, Gene, can you give us your secret to longevity in the country music industry?
Well, be true to what you do. Give it your best. It's like the stage appearances. When I leave that stage, I don't have nothing in my pockets. I left it all on the stage. Give them people what they pay their hard-earned money for. Show them the devotion that they deserve. And always remember, thanks is not a good enough word for how good they can be to you if all you do is just play for them.
Truer words were never spoken. Mr. Gene, I want to thank you so much for giving us the time of day and calling us and talking with us here today on the Radio Random Network. And real quick, do you have anything you want to say to your fans before I let you go and you get ready for your Opry appearance tonight?
Yeah, we ain't through.
That's it, short and sweet and to the point. Mr. Gene?
We're just finishing up with a brand new CD that I think is probably going to be one of the best that I've recorded in the length of time that my memory span goes back. I am so proud of it, and I can't wait to get it out, and it's going to be just for the fans. I think it's going to be what my fans have been waiting on, and we're going to try our best to thank them a little bit more for how good they've been to us.
Yes, indeed. Well, Mr. Gene, look, we're going to reschedule an interview in a couple of months or a month or so with you guys whenever you slow down a little bit. and get you on here and get some good troubadour stories from you from back in, when country music was country music, because I'm sure you got a lot of them. But I could talk to you all day, friend. With that said, Mr. Gene, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on the Radio Random Network today. And for all you Gene Watson fans, all you traditional country music fans, for the real country music, you go to GeneWatsonMusic.com. I'm sure it's on iTunes, Amazon, and all that good stuff, and we'll keep you all updated on his tours and the new music that's coming out by Mr. Gene Watson. Gene, thank you so much for joining us today, friend.
Thank you, my friend, for taking time to talk to me.
Yes, indeed. Well, we'll talk at you later, brother.
Thank you, sir.
You too, brother.
Thank you, Russell.
There you heard it from the man himself, Mr. Gene Watson. I didn't mention it whenever we was talking to Gene, but, I mean, he's been on the music scene for, since the 60s, man. He's still doing it. He's still out there doing it. And like I said in the interview, be sure and go check out GeneWatsonMusic.com. It's traditional country music. It's the good stuff. I mean, that's all there is to it. And also, I want to send a shout-out to Mr. Scott Atkins of Webster and Associates for contacting us about Mr. Gene Watson being on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to a real troubadour. And with all of that said, be sure and go back and listen to Tuesday's show, which is Backstage with #RDM. Last Tuesday, I was joined by the queen of outlaw country music, Miss Tanya Tucker. Great interview. She talked about Glenn Campbell. She talked about her new music and what she's been up to and all that good stuff. It's time to bring it on to home, I guess is the best way to put it. Be sure and go to RadioRandomNetwork.com. Excuse the mess. We're doing a little maintenance. Be sure and sign up for our newsletter. Like us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter at RRN Live. One thing, a lot of people, especially old Mudtooth, they've been talking about this thing with TG Sheppard. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, a few weeks ago I got a chance to talk to TG Sheppard, and at the end of the interview, he actually had some very cool things to say about me.
You don't really interview, you have a conversation.
I didn't want it to come off as bragging, but I've been going back and forth about sharing this with the public, but I think today I'm going to go ahead and let it go. I'm going to let it play. So, this is it for me. I'm #RDM Russell Devin McLain. Thank you so much for hitting the play button. We got some very, very cool stuff that's going to be happening here soon, so y'all be sure and stay up with us. Join me next Tuesday for Backstage with #RDM and the Russell And Mudtooth Show on Friday. Now, it's what everybody's been waiting for, I guess. The very end of the TG Sheppard interview that we done a couple of weeks ago. Check out what OTG had to say about myself on the Radio Random Network. Y'all be cool, be careful, and we'll see you next week.